Then you want to just go ahead and just start sharing the screen.
But Jeff knows how to do it.
Sure.
Just, if you just hit OK, just so you don't have that again. Top and.
Yeah, just maximize it.
There we go. Okay.
Thank you.
You're all good.
Hey, so the Town of Groton Planning and Zoning Commission special meeting will come to order and roll call. I guess we have a few absences.
Maybe late arrivals, we'll see.
Yeah. So anyway, Steve.
Here.
And Lauren, would you sit for Hal?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we have a forum. What?
Hey, ladies.
We started the meeting.
We've already
Yeah.
started. Thank you. Okay, so public communication, I know we didn't get anything emailed to us.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. So new business, Groton 2035 work session. So I guess Jeff or staff, whoever, take it away.
No staff comments before we.
I know we have John Reiner here with us tonight and Deb, so.
So, no, I think, tonight we can just, again, going through what we've been doing, chapter by chapter with the POCD, looking at the larger strategies and stuff. And, yeah, I think Jeff can take it from here.
So
I guess one question I know everyone's anxious to hear about, do you think the first one, so the next draft will be ready? And we haven't finished the first 6 yet. We're about to maybe.
let's see, chapters, the introduction and chapters 1 through 4, the town has posted those on Greater Groton. And chapters 5 and 6 have been edited. They are, Lauren went out sick today and she's the one who has access to the website. So we expect that they will be up tomorrow.
Right.
So that'll be all 6 chapters, draft text. So for the chapters that have not been discussed here yet, they're very clearly marked or will be very clearly marked on the website. PCC has not reviewed this yet, but they are all up there or will be up there as of tomorrow.
That's great. And how many chapters are there in total?
6. So we have
Still
introduction
6?
and 6 chapters.
Okay.
Yep.
I thought we had 30.
No. We're again, we are trying to keep it concise. So for tonight, we're focused on. Hey, Mike.
Hey there.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
So just started.
Sorry.
No. No big deal. All right, so Jeff.
Yes, so this evening we're focused on chapter 2, which is natural and coastal resources and open space, and chapter 4, which is transportation, community facilities, utilities, and energy. And of course, this body's already discussed transportation back in August, but we figured it would just be at this point, that in August, we were still looking at this topic by topic. Now we're looking chapter by chapter. Transportation is part of chapter 4. You will have seen how it has been revised since August. And then we do hope to spend a little bit of time at the end of the meeting just talking about the public hearing process and maybe start mapping out when you would like to open up public hearings for plan. And this is as much for people in the audience and anyone who might be watching at home as it is for all of you at this point. But just to reiterate, our focus tonight will be to go policy by policy, strategy by strategy, and discuss what you support, what you might support with some changes, anything that you don't support. We want to keep thinking about what's a high priority, what's missing, and we may or may not use the term champion, but who's going to be the lead for each of these strategies. And another reminder, this is sort of what I was already saying, and again, this is as much for people at home who may be watching as anyone. But the town has been thoroughly reviewing, town staff has been thoroughly reviewing and editing the content of the plan and the chapters over the last several months. So hopefully as of tomorrow, all 6 chapters plus the introduction will be posted on Greater Groton. Right now, the introduction through chapter 4 is up there. 5 and 6 should go up tomorrow. And again, for people watching at home, As a reminder, the policies and strategies that we're presenting have been edited down from their original by staff to be consistent with the PCC's direction to limit their number with the goal of shaping the policies and strategies to something concise and manageable while still covering all the issues identified by the public and required by the state. So again, just a little context for people watching at home. Our goal is to really make this a concise, manageable set of strategies and policies. All right. So with that, our first piece is natural resources. And we'll go as we have in the past, bit by bit. So we start with policy 2.1, develop programs to steward all of the town's properties. And we'll start with these first two strategies, 2.1A and 2.1B. Identify and prioritize town-owned open space land in need of management plans, new or updates to existing, to address long-term needs such as invasive species management, trail development, and maintenance or forest management. And then 2.1B, strengthen public access to the coast by identifying and enhancing existing access points and acquiring new parcels for easements. And if you would like, we can actually, those are the two under this policy.
Just curious, if you have any idea how many town open space parcels are there that would have a management plan? And how are they as far as actually having a management plan done? I know the Conservation Commission's been supporting that for a while, so.
And that's the commission that actually has developed them, although Parks and Recreation is starting to employ consultants to basically update them and get them a bit more specific to the property. And I can see Dave is furiously looking to find a number for.
How many there are?
So is this,
Don't be furious.
we're providing guidance for another group?
For the Parks and Rec department, yeah.
Implements this kind of I mean, it's so often you see where management plans are made, but then, I guess that's where we have to identify who's going to take charge.
Right. So the Parks and Rec ones, it's generally tends to be Parks and Rec staff who would implement that. For those that are managed by the Conservation Commission, was generally your.
It's all
Parks and Rec?
It's all Parks and Recreation.
And how do we distinguish between what we are calling open space land and town-owned land? Just parse, but what makes that designation?
Well, it's open space land is town-owned land that you do not intend to develop.
And that is protected
And that-
by
yeah.
deed. There's a deed restriction on it, or at least the deed says this property was taken for open space purposes, as opposed to the deed for town hall, for example.
Right.
Okay.
I think it grants from the state quite often, from time to time from DEP. That has a big conservation easement that goes on every property. And it's very detailed.
So a
So
lot
it's
of,
got to have that designation. It's got to have that on the deed in order for it to be considered open space and for us to make a management plan for it.
I mean, those are going to be the highest priorities
Yes,
with
okay.
these plans in the short term, which is not to say that, you may have, we've had a lot of conversation about, the use of town-owned property, and you may acquire a piece of property in the future and choose as a community that the highest, best use is conservation for that piece of land. And you may want to go through the process of designating it as open space. So-
Typically, that type of property would be something that's taken in foreclosure,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And then at some point, the council needs to determine what the use is. Kolnaski property, for example. That whole thing was taken in foreclosure and the council determined school site as opposed to open space, although later on a conservation easement was placed on a portion of it.
Or like, well, whatever. I mean, sometimes there's smaller things like gas station, right?
Absolutely, for example.
Being the engineer, and I really would like to see the numbers. Like there are currently, so many, plots that are deeded open space. Of these, 60% of them currently have management plans. We would like to get the remaining covered,
Sure.
you know?
Same as that number.
Is that something that is? doable?
So right now, depends on which page you're looking at for conservation commission, there's 14 to 15 stewardship plans they put together for access of the open space within the town there. Again, kind of what Deb said is that they are, conservation starting to work with Parks and Rec in terms of Parks and Rec actually adopting them and starting to take them on there, but there are, like I said, about 15 of those that are currently active.
15
It's
plans,
plans that have been developed, yes.
For 15
one plan
properties.
per piece of property?
Per big property.
And then just rough, how many properties are we talking?
But it's how it's.
50, 60?
I just don't even want to guess without looking
Oh,
them out.
yeah. We
I
get,
just don't, yeah.
And you're asking about town-specific open space versus what Avalonia or GOSA or somebody else owns.
right.
Yeah, because this is town.
This is town.
It'll be town properties with the deed that says.
Yeah.
Open space conserved.
Yeah,
something.
but I don't know what the rest of the commission, but I would think that would put some, you know, some size on what we're talking about, instead of just saying identify and prioritize, just say, we only have management plans for 5% of them, you know. This is, you know, it kind of elevates it to, you know, a need. As
Yeah.
opposed to, you know.
And there may be a threshold, a size threshold for when, you know, a management plan is needed.
Yes, absolutely.
And that really, I think, gets into the identify and prioritize town open space land in need of management plans. Because if a piece of property is 3 acres in size, we probably might not need a management plan. Or we may, if it has invasive species, if we want to get it back to functioning coastal habitat or something like that. So
I mean, that I have no knowledge that 15 already exist, 15 management plans already exist. Yeah, so-
And you're looking at this, you know, just on its own without looking at the narrative that goes with it.
Right.
So we'll make sure that within the description of the chapter, the narrative, that all is spelled out. So it makes sense that this is a policy.
And then, since I sort of at least volunteer for an organization, I mean, Avalonia that has over 100 or close to 100 properties. So there is a management plan for each one, that's like the easy part. Where do you get to the part in this? Is this under another strategy or something where you actually talk about implementation and have a specific, like for us, or for the Avalonia, you have to literally walk the boundary of the property every year. Because that's a requirement from the Land Trust Alliance that they're a part of, right? So you get into the details of what things you actually have to do every day, every year,
Which would be,
or whatever.
which would be the content of the management plan.
Yes.
So is that gonna be on there? It'll actually be a,
in a management plan, yes, not in the POCD.
that's fine, just so it's somewhere, okay.
This is top level, that's implemented.
Correct.
So, you know, again, we're looking big picture here. What are the strategies? Saying, yes, we need to prioritize which town-owned open spaces get and have management plans, and then how do we develop them? Getting into the details of, all right, each site shall be walked once a year. That should be in the management plan itself.
Very good.
So my point just is, going back to the glossary idea, can we define open space? Because I've seen just out there in the zeitgeist, like a bunch of different definitions of what open space could entail, including things like cemeteries, right?
Mhm.
And what we count towards our inventory of open space. And so when we're talking in the POCD about this, I think it's important to be specific about which types of parcels, because folks might have different ideas, especially when like reading into the key points areas, you're talking about active recreation, resources, farmland, agricultural areas, that
Yep.
sort of stuff. And so if we're talking about these like large parcels of forest and meadows and that kind of stuff, that's a different idea of, I think, to some folks, of what we need to prioritize or do. Versus we're talking about parks and playgrounds and cemeteries and more active
Yep.
kind of uses. That's my one.
Great point. Thank you.
I think in line with that too, we do have zoning definitions for
Yes.
certain categories of open space.
Yeah, in
property.
a lot of respects, we're talking about the green conservation and the green recreation distinction.
But I noticed, I guess when we were starting to talk about open space subdivisions, that there may be a little conflict, or maybe we need two definitions of open space.
Right?
Because if you had an open space subdivision, then your, say, big green area in between the apartment buildings or something was considered as open space, then I was thinking to myself, this isn't necessarily true, but it's just one of the wild thoughts. I was just thinking, well, then you'd have to classify every lawn
Sure.
town as open space.
Exactly.
That's all you have
Right.
in that particular apartment type thing is you have grass, but I mean, well, grass.
Right.
So I was just thinking that would be something maybe.
Zoning definition is definitely different from what we're talking about here.
Right, but we probably need a little fine tuning too, once we get farther along in what's going. So,
So, kind of-
Done a,
Yeah, that's a
having a
perfect point.
definition. And
Yep.
same thing with affordable housing. I don't know if I brought it up before, but
Yes.
affordable housing means a lot of different things to different people.
Absolutely.
So whatever we're working on, like this 30%, what does that mean? in
Yep.
space?
yeah, and, I know that, Dave and Deb, working with our GIS department with NOAA and the Conservation Commission, spent a lot of time over the past couple of years looking at that, like, how do we define open space? When we talk about that, almost 30% of Groton is permanently protected open space. That's how we were trying to refine it down. So we had a consistent definition. Because most municipalities have the same, oh, wait, what is truly open space? And we get into this discussion whenever we're developing a plan of conservation and development and how we map these areas out. So we have put a lot of time and effort into this in the recent past.
Any thoughts about the coastal access
Oh,
strategy?
yeah, good question. Any thoughts, anybody, about that? I know I walked the Mystic one, just really to see if it looked like, there were some pretty good drawings of where it should be, and it looked like there was access, at least to those ones. But any other thoughts?
But how much of this, I mean, once again, same questions, I guess. Are acquiring new parcels or easements, are they identified in the POCD or are they identified somewhere else?
I know. So again, this is a strategy to.
Yeah, it just seems like it's difficult to, I mean, it's great.
And
to
acquiring new.
Yeah.
say, but how do you do it?
Are there maybe specific areas that we want to look at? Kind of narrow it down. I mean, which parts of the coast? I don't think this is talking city, right? Or we're not worried about coastal access in the city.
Maybe you are. I don't know.
But I mean, I guess how much are we covering the city and the POCD?
So I mean, our company actually just did a study like this for Yarmouth on the Cape. And we literally looked at all the existing access ways and looked at beaches that didn't have access, looked at where there's signage, where there's not, where private property owners have over time sort of eroded the access points, either with physical obstructions or removing signs. So, I mean, that's sort of what I envision with this strategy, is that you need to do we don't have a lot of this information today, and need to do that groundwork to figure out where the obstacles are.
Yeah.
So probably be on the trail app or the whatever walking. app,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Recreation apps.
Yeah.
They used to, I have a,
Yeah, I mean, we've started updating that 1990 map. We have something for Mystic, but it doesn't cover the entire town. So I think the implementation of this strategy would indeed be creating a new map of exactly where everything is and making the logical connections and possibly have, recommendations of pieces where easements should be acquired or property should be acquired. But I think that's how this will be implemented by a plan that shows all of that.
Yeah, do we say that in this or in the POCD, that some sort of a coastal access plan should be developed or?
again, whose responsibility?
Yeah, would that be conservation? Would that be?
We probably end up, putting out an RFP for it and, yeah.
I mean, that's been an ongoing issue in the last 10 years or so.
Especially Mystic.
Yeah, where a lot of those things have been lost, and it would be good if it was on paper where it said, that this is what
Where-
places that we think are important. You know, or the potential.
On paper right now compared to the old map, but it is on our GIS. So last year, Noah and I went out and documented all the public access points. They are embedded into our GIS map right now.
Yeah.
And we check to see to make sure that each one of those have something associated with it, with the ones that that we know for sure are legally there and whatnot. So you go onto our town GIS, there's actually, like, for instance, if you're over by Steamboat Ward, you'll see an area, if you zoom in on that, you'll actually see it kind of like model. And that whole area there is identified as coastal access, walking person there, so it is identified on GIS right now. We haven't redone the map.
And we haven't done the entire town.
No.
Right.
How about identifying new parcels? How do we do that? Or is that?
I mean, it's like any plan. you know,
Okay, so that's why I got.
That's really what it is. It's like, you know, you identify pieces
Yeah,
within
this
that
strategy
plan.
does not explicitly say develop a plan. You can read
Right, and then
it to say that.
we use that when developments come in and
Yeah, exactly.
tell them, you're gonna give us this bit.
Yeah, well, sometimes I think if you don't have a plan, then nothing
Mhm.
happens, right? You've got to have a mission.
Yeah.
And then,
So that was the intention of this, and we can play with the language to make that
Okay,
clear.
all right, that's fine.
The intention is to develop. a
Belabor
plan.
it.
Because one other thing, are the towns, like trails and everything like that, are something like All Trails or some of these apps that people use across the country and stuff like that?
So that is, this is a Parks and Rec thing, but also working with Conservation Commission. So we have had college students the last actually multiple years now, and they work on different projects. And one of them specifically is looking at trail apps. And so that is coming. Basically they've kind of developed it, and Parks and Rec is starting to implement that on some trails. Some trails are already in All Trails. Just because other people put them in there, but the plan is to put all those into our avenue.
Excellent, excellent. I use it.
I think with this too, easements are a good way to be able to get access. If you don't have to buy the land,
Right.
just buy the rights to cross it, right? Maybe
Get
that's-
the ordinance.
Oh, I mean, that's an.
Yeah.
Required a new vote.
Yeah.
I think that's important that that's in there and that it's emphasized.
Right. I remember there was a parcel out in Groton Long Point, even though I lived fairly close to it, I had no idea it was open space, right?
Oh, okay, sure.
And it'd be a really nice place for people to bike out to or walk out to. So I think it's a great idea. Get the town tied in like that and put it on some sort of all trails thing. I know Trailport, because you can put a tracker on the bike, and make your own trail, but I don't think that's the idea we want here. Might be as out of control as that happens. So.
Could I just ask for two pieces of maybe homework or additions? Just thinking about the end users of this, 5, 6, 10 years from now. Somewhere in the index or somewhere, just a list of all of the studies that went into putting this together already, like what we already have existing.
Yep.
But also, a number of our recommendations, our strategies, our policies, whatever you want to call them, has been to create a study.
Yes.
And so maybe a list of the studies that we want.
Sure.
Right,
Yeah.
that we're looking for, so an
That's-
EV inventory, I feel like that would be good for the policymakers
I would think
specifically.
that that's gonna go, we're gonna have that same kind of checklist at the end. Gonna be like a big summary.
Yeah, the implementation
Okay,
matrix, but
Yeah.
to specifically call out, these are
The
ones
studies.
that deal with studies and yeah.
I know a criticism that comes up often is the amount of money spent on studies.
Of course,
So, if we're just out here studying, people always want to go, well, when are you gonna do the thing?
Yep.
And so I think getting the two side by side comparisons of what information do we already have that is actionable and what more information are we going after might be helpful for both the public and the policymakers.
Of course, with trails with public access, the study itself is also actionable because as soon as you have that information, you share it with people. That's part of the action. Shall we move to the next policy? All right, so policy 2.2, Regulations and policy should reduce impacts on the town's natural environment and should restore and enhance the town's resources. So we have 4 strategies under this policy. I'll read through the 4 quickly and then go back to this slide. 2A, develop a comprehensive low-impact development regulation strategy that promotes sustainable stormwater management, green infrastructure, and resilient urban growth. B, refine the town's prioritization framework for land conservation to include consideration of wildlife habitat, resource linkages, hazard mitigation benefits, greenway connections / expansion. C, maintain and encourage agriculture in Groton and encourage activities that promote local food production. And finally, D, target areas in town with low tree canopy coverage and/or heat vulnerable areas for tree plantings. Use the Groton tree inventory and findings from the 2023 Planning for Extreme Heat project as data sources.
Doesn't the town have some of these things already in place requiring some of these low impact things? I was just curious about that. It's hard to know where we are.
Right, there's a very small section in the zoning regulations, but it really needs to be bumped up. It really does.
Is that what this means?
It does.
That's what we're talking about.
It does, and I think it also will encompass what Public Works does when it comes to, repaving roads, or their road and drainage standards. I mean, it's not just falling on you all, it's falling on Public Works as well.
Would this be something that we beef up in the zoning regs, or is this other policy?
Certainly one part, yeah, it would definitely be in the zoning regs, but I think it would also be in the road and drainage standards and possibly the subdivision regulations.
Yes. Will we say that in this? What you just said, Deb?
Well, we know that's what.
Okay.
the-
I mean,
that's
I
what they're getting to.
But, okay, so that,
If you want us to spell that
I
out.
think the thing is, for me, it's like, it's important that, like, I always, when I'm working, it's punch list, right? I want a punch list, and even sometimes I just like, it can be really small. Because it feels good when you get some, you cross it off. So I think it's important that we, if we have the things that you all are targeting, that we have a box there that we can check.
Yep, and again, you need to read this alongside the narrative in the
Yeah,
plan.
no, I don't,
Yeah.
no, that's.
I know.
It being different than all of the first few pages that comes with it, or?
No, that's,
The summary.
if there's something you do not see in there, then we need to add it.
Okay, so this is the narrative you're talking.
Yes.
referencing.
Yes. And question for town staff, do you see this potentially being a standalone part of your code that's cross-referenced in zoning? Or a series of, like, something that lives in zoning, a code related to DPW?
I mean, I certainly see it in all 3 of those: subdivision, zoning, and road and drainage standards, and having them being done in concert, so there's no conflicts.
Yeah, we took our first big deep dive into this back in the 2019 zoning regs, but a lot of it really applied to commercial development, new commercial development. If we want to take it that next step forward, it's our subdivision regulations, it's the road and drainage standards, and then even maybe looking at other areas where the zoning regulations could touch that we may have missed.
Everybody agree that's a good idea?
What? But did you mention that it exists currently in a very small?
Sure, there's a couple of paragraphs. I mean,
Or,
it needs to be more robust.
yeah, enhance or,
Right.
expand upon.
Yep.
It's not a new concept. It's just that it needs to be brought.
Yeah, it should be a good goal. We'll have a few goals.
Right, yes, but not to bump it.
Fantastic. That is all great direction. So then we have the prioritization framework for land conservation. Obviously that, I think, exists to a certain extent. So again, how is it? Is there anything else we want to say about the context behind this one?
I think when the town buys a property, uses the open space grant, you'd have to follow all these Because you would not get your grant if you couldn't demonstrate you had a very special property that has wildlife values and where they are. That's a big grant to put together, but it requires you really to have it top notch from an environmental point of view.
Is this kind of, you're saying this is kind of stating the obvious?
Well,
That's
good
fine.
I think it's good to state that it doesn't apply to things that are not part of the grant process either.
But quite often, we apply for those grants because that property came on the market,
Yeah, right.
right? As opposed to, kind of looking at the town as a whole with these types of values in mind and being ready when that property comes on the market.
Or being
Rather-
more proactive in
Thank you.
reaching out to the property owners now, and instead of waiting for it to come on the market for whatever reason.
That's how we use to identify parcels that.
I think that's what you just said, Deb, is that I don't see in that is the identification.
Yeah.
So if, I don't know if that can be put in service, but if it's not just prioritize this framework, but to prioritize and identify.
Well, we used to have that. We had a list of desirable properties. Well, we had about 30 properties on that list or something.
I mean, I just remember I was talking about open space, to make sure that there's a contiguous path, and various things, making habitats for various animals and stuff. This sounds like we're just thinking about this.
Right.
That's again, my first, reaction is that, oh, we're now gonna consider wildlife?
Oh, right.
What this is really driving at is to not be knee jerk, but instead right now just say, all right, what are the key parcels that we as a town really want to protect and for what reasons? What are the highest priorities? Is it coastal habitat restoration? Is it habitat and wildlife? Is it flood proofing? Is it watershed protection? And kind of come up with that short list and then start working on it. As opposed to, I think historically, it's been a little more, oh, this property's come for sale. Something's gonna happen with this property. The last one, Wolfbrook, that we purchased, the owner reached out to us and said, I'm either gonna sell it for development or I'm gonna sell it for open space. What do you wanna do? We went after it with that because there was that pressure. Great habitat, it checked a lot of the boxes. But this is, all right, let's really start thinking forward on that plan of, if we had a limited budget, what are the key properties we want to go after? And really, I think that's the driver on this.
And you need to really nail down what you're looking for, your prioritization. Would the Conservation Commission do that? I think they have.
Yeah, they
Yeah. They have. It'd be good to see that. Maybe see what they have, we could reference it or something.
You could complain all night about this, but.
Well, I know a lot, if I can do one more thing. I find, because I've been involved with a lot of open space projects, that oftentimes you think it's pretty good. It has, a lot of things you're looking for, it's big, whatever. But then it's really only after you've had it for a few years, you're like, wow, I can't believe this. Like, we didn't even know what the bedrock was for the, 500 some acre Tri-Town Forest Preserve up in North Stonington. It made all the difference, but some of the basic things like that. I'm just saying, I think it's good to, because I think we all know kind of what makes a good good and all that. But, and I think this is a great idea. We have the list. We'll do our best to get a list of properties. Understanding, hopefully there'll be some surprises on the upside, and it's always a learning experience. Now we do look at what the geology is of properties.
Yep.
It's not all Avalonian bedrock here.
So I think that's some good direction. We can refine this to be more about being more proactive about setting your priorities and finding parcels and being more proactive about working with the property owners to conserve them for specific reasons.
I mean, that might be the first step, that people might own things and that puts it on the radar for them, right? Maybe they want to get to sell something and hadn't even considered that part of it.
Sure.
So if we identify it as being desirable,
Right, and show them what their options are.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, like I said, maybe
comes
it
a-
wasn't something they considered, and you can be more proactive about making it happen.
So conservation does have, I was trying to figure out which, I couldn't remember which appendix it was in, so it's appendix F of their conservation plan. So, and that was just updated in 2024, so, there are right now 18 properties on that. Okay.
Oh, really?
So is this a matter of, I mean, should we reword this to cross-reference to that as opposed to, again, I don't want anyone to get the impression that this is something that's not being done, that.
We could, I mean, Lauren was talking about kind of list of the studies
Yeah.
that they have involved, and this is part of that.
Right.
So, yeah, we could reference that.
I was thinking like an index, you could just have your study and then all of the strategies that references it out, right? 2.2B,
maybe two
4.9.
documents together.
I think we all ought to take a look at it too. Since this is I had no idea they had a list.
Are you saying you haven't read it?
Pardon?
Are you saying you haven't read it?
I did read that big document, I actually did, but I haven't seen the list of,
No, they won't.
so
There's a lot of appendices.
must be on the town website.
It is, yep.
Under conservation.
Yes, they have their own website.
They do.
Yes, they do. So if you go on that, if you go under document and resources, it's under that.
Great. That sounds good. Did you have something?
That's
else you wanted
their-
to say?
Does that,
List actually state which properties?
it has the road names on it.
Okay, because one of the things that we've always been cautious with from an open space, property protection standpoint is not putting too much information out there because at least historically, I think a lot of properties that were targeted for open space protection, developers also looked at as great developable properties. And we didn't want to start competing if that was actually the case. I think that was probably a little more prevalent when we were all targeting farmland, which was flat and very easily developable, whereas it's not necessarily the case anymore. But still, not that we want to, not be transparent when the time is right, but at the same time, if we shared our highest priority with people, sometimes that makes the price go up as well. So you got to think about it from how can we be good stewards of the land? How can we work with people and how can we be good stewards of the taxpayer dollars as well when you're starting to negotiate these things? So although we want to talk about what goes into developing a list to set our priorities, sharing the specific parcel might not be the best idea.
And if their list says Route 1 or something, it's a little difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope it isn't just a street on the list, or is it just a street
See.
without a,
It's a street, just a street.
like Route 1,
Main.
Main Street? Something like that. I'm just curious. We could do this later.
Yeah.
Do-
And
And
again,
these are things that we wouldn't have problem sharing with our partners that are helping to bring matching funds to the table. But it's not necessarily you want to spread the word out to everybody.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because, I know, I think something that happens, sometimes for Ghosts and others is they usually get an appraisal too.
Yep.
Just like a developer will get an appraisal, so you probably had two different appraisals, but still, hopefully the price should be fairly close in any event.
But even there's times I'm still negotiating and working to buy open space or farmland preservation stuff. And just because the appraisal is one thing, there's an expectation that it's more. And then how much above the appraisal can you go, depending on your partnering entities? Some will allow going 10% over, some, nope, that's the top price. And can you ever get somebody to actually then do a bargain sale? So Sue's operated in this area a lot. And I've been doing a lot of farmland and open space preservation for 25 years as well. So not just in Groton. So yeah,
Thanks again for Woodbrook too, that's great.
Deb got the grant on that. So yeah.
Great, okay.
So the other two strategies under this policy, again, relate to agriculture and local fruit production, and then expanding the tree canopy.
Yes, the only thing on agriculture, and I just throw this out, I wonder if we should include encouraging, say, community gardens,
Sure.
That was gonna be a question.
mini agriculture. Well,
That's about all the food production we're gonna be doing here
Well, that's-
soon.
That's That's the question, like what exactly did you guys have in mind as something that the town could do to promote this? Community gardens obviously is one.
Sure. And yeah, because the I'm not gonna lie, the agriculture issue here is tough when you're talking about farms. I mean, you've just lost so much and there isn't much left. And there,
Yeah, and I think it's a recognition that, you probably can't make a living being a farmer.
Yeah.
And so, allowing other uses on that property that may help support the farm. I think that's something the town can do.
Should we say that?
Well, there's agriculture in buildings too, right? Hydroponic stuff like that.
Sure.
And maybe we should make sure that's well known too, because actually this area, well, this whole big area does not have very good farmland soils, as we all know. So even if you had the acreage, doesn't necessarily mean you can even farm, and you probably would lose money anyway if you could. So it's a tough thing, unfortunately.
Say what, Jeff, maybe 10, 12 years ago, I remember, I think you and Nate worked on a agricultural guidebook for like rural communities and diversifying their economies, where it was based around agriculture and not just, growing corn and crops, but, tree management as well as, because of we don't have great soils here, but it might be good for pasture land. There might be other opportunities outside of what we would normally think of, say, growing crops. Well,
Maybe like the turf farms you have in Rhode Island.
yes.
but see, those require spectacular soil.
You don't want that.
I thought maybe they just threw the nitrogen in there.
No, they have a lot of good soil, and the reason that, a lot of the agencies work to preserve that type of land is they know it can very easily be converted. Get the grass out, plant crops, and if there was ever a real problem, but we didn't need just lawns all the time.
That's good. Thanks.
So I know Connecticut, one of our largest exports is actually greenhouse flowers. And so I had some experience with PA 490, and so
Sure.
I guess the question here is, if we start to encourage more kind of right to farm activities for individual homeowners, like right now I'm restricted to keeping 4 hens per our zoning. I could probably do with a few more hens.
Which actually, I've mentioned this once before, it's illegal in Connecticut to buy 4 hens. That's, you're supposed to buy 5. So I mean, I think what you just said is very important.
So
Yard kind of garden.
That's what I think of when I think of local food production at this level, is a lot of people, especially since COVID, have been getting into that homesteading sort of thing. And the question people have asked me before, and I don't know the answer on, is, does this include quail, peafowl? I mean, what other kind of rabbits? Can I keep rabbits for a meat source in my backyard?
Pretty sure your definitions are very specific about listing animal types.
So so that's kind of what I'm getting towards, is what do we change within there if they want to expand people's ability to produce their own food in their quarter-acre, backyard. And to that end also, so the perspective of PA 490 I worked on was actually maritime agriculture, aquaculture.
Oh, okay.
And insofar as we have that, it's maritime space and agricultural maritime space is very hard to come by.
Yep.
Is this including local food production in that manner? That obviously there's recreational shellfish harvesting, but what does the town, like, is this going to include the town promoting more folks getting out there, getting their crab licenses, their 6 crab pots or lobster pots and all that kind of stuff?
Or kelp, right?
Well, yeah.
So
I think the coastal side of things, that would probably be more addressed in if we had a harbor management plan, looking at that from the water's edge going out, identifying areas for shellfish beds and aquaculture and those types of things. Versus here, I think we were trying to looking at maybe large or small, like what could we do to encourage more local food production? We don't have to solve that specific issue as part of the POCD, but just start thinking about if local food production is something that we think is important, as we start looking at zoning changes in the future or things that are allowed in certain zoning districts, that is then something that you can chew on and for the future,
I have 2 neighbors one who lives, both of them are apartment dwellers, I'll just put it that way. And they come to my house to bring their compost.
Oh, interesting.
So I mean, that could be something that, and then I think maybe when we're doing all these apartments, maybe that could be a community garden, could be in those kinds of places.
Sure.
You know, and then I know like New York City does composting. Maybe that's a way of promoting this kind of stuff.
The transfer station has a compost pile.
And
Yeah, but it's like, how convenient,
Yeah.
and even for these people, they come over, they drop it off,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, Scara is in the process of developing a composting facility up in Preston. And I mean, just recently, there is a company that will pick up your compost for you.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have a company that comes pick up mine. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Also in the
They're
city,
actually throwing away has been reduced
the
significantly.
city of Groton calls chickens pets. You can have as many as you,
I'm like 500 feet on the wrong side of that line.
They can't be.
I have 11, so.
No rooster, right?
No rooster. I'm down with that.
No
one.
rooster.
No roosters. But yeah, I guess so local food production or individual food production, there's a difference, right? Are we talking about local farms? Or
You're talking about businesses or people?
People.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. I'd be in favor of expanding that to include individual.
Yeah, we can be explicit about that.
Yeah. Well, probably one of the biggest community gardens is in Mumford Cove, because it's most successful, I dare say. It's unbelievable, and we really, be nice to give tours of that, quite honestly, but then you need somebody, like we have a farmer, a legitimate farmer from the other side of Connecticut, retired from Mumford Cove, and so it's nothing like his expertise. But there's well, I should say, maybe about 50 families there, have some, take some of the produce there, and some take almost all of their needs, are met by it. And such variety, and people are always experimenting. I'm trying broccoli raw now.
It's a great
But it's like,
Yeah.
it's very sociable too.
sense of community.
That's true.
But maybe some of the
Absolutely.
subdivisions or something can think about a bigger home, because it's hard for it to succeed, I think, when you have just individuals doing it. So, something to think about, if there's any solution to that one, but maybe we should give some tours if anybody's interested.
Yeah.
So.
Cool.
You can have one here.
Yeah, we've got a big old open.
I know you.
But
Would this also include like the town planting fruit producing trees or bushes in local areas? So you could do like.
That's a
urban
great question.
foraging?
Yeah, there are a lot of communities that will do that with the intention of making produce available to anyone who wants it.
Say I just got 2 pawpaw trees. I'm
Yeah.
real excited for that.
Oh, the pawpaws are.
Yeah, they're interesting.
They're
Fruit,
interesting,
yeah, I got a bunch of seeds. Gonna try. I think it's a good idea, kind of leads into the next strategy.
Yeah, so the tree planting.
And maybe we should think about things you can eat,
Mhm.
plant trees, hopefully. around-
Asian pears.
It's gonna be a hiccup if you do though.
I was saying a lot of communities won't do that because of the mess that it makes.
Oh.
You have to really advertise that this is
Free to take.
here for
Yeah.
everyone to use.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have, do we have street trees that are do we use them? In our acceptable trees that we use for,
I'm pretty
For
sure
trees, probably not.
trees are not
Yeah.
on the list,
Yeah.
for example.
I know in New London, there's one house that has peaches and on the, out in front that were planted by the cities for that, they bought the trees. But I mean, so that becomes like a food source for, even if it's just animals, but I know it does make a mess.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the spacing would be important.
Of course.
do we know heat vulnerable areas? Is there some map of that? or-
Looking at one today.
Yeah,
Oh, right.
exactly. And there is a study going on right now with monitors
Oh.
on this town. So yes.
Right.
But just on the tree idea, I know that we have in Epiquanic Plains a demonstration of deer resistant plantings. It's
Oh.
like off in the corner, right? Perhaps that's something to consider when doing park planning, right? Is having
Yeah.
little urban foraging sections, and that's how we integrate some of these ideas.
Well, I think that's an interesting idea to offer the option if a landowner wanted a fruit tree. why not make certain things available? Of course, that's easier said than done, right? Then you have to spray apple trees and all this sort of thing, so. But there are some things that grow native trees, that the fruit seems to be pretty good.
Yeah.
And again, if those are things, especially in a community like Groton, where we are encouraging if we started encouraging things like that to be on the road, we'd then be getting a lot more wildlife in the road. We'd probably start having a lot more vehicle wildlife interaction. Thank you. And that's something we probably want to avoid, right in the road,
So
right?
maybe it's not your street trees, but in parks,
Yeah, not-
much like the.
The native
terraces,
area
yeah.
where you have food forest.
It's
or whatever you wanna
forest, yeah,
call it.
and you advertise it as such and everyone knows we can harvest here.
Or when you're when you're doing parcels and it's not the street, but in the back and you're
Yeah.
asking for,
Exactly, not
Might be a
street
place
trees,
to
that's
put
for sure.
All right.
Well, I guess once they finish up the study of the vulnerable areas and everything, is there someone that has, I'm sure there is, there must be a good study on what exact trees should you plant? I mean, which ones are gonna do the job better?
Those keep changing.
You know?
They keep changing too.
Oh,
Yeah, so, I mean, that's the forest management plan, that actually, as part of that, they talked a lot about like, yeah, maples are great. But you don't also want to have the entire town full of maples, because then you have basically an issue with this sort of disease and stuff like that. So it's more of like kind of looking at lots of different options.
well, you're talking about this tree inventory that was referenced to?
Yeah.
I read that, quite honestly. I had some free time. But, no, I thought it was interesting, because, they talk about the tree species and how maple is such a #1 species, but they're Norway maple.
I know, and a lot of them.
It's like, they're gonna be the most common tree, hands down, because the way they spread. It's unbelievable, and they're not good,
the best tree.
they're not
But
good
obviously,
storms.
we're not recommending that on any, no one proposes that anymore.
Yeah.
So, because of that whole issue.
I thought it was interesting, because it was like, well, they had tree of heaven on the list too. I don't think, whatever. But be interesting to know what, say, trees are not horribly invasive, or what makes sense to give shade and all these other things we're looking for. And the idea of having some food trees available too.
Yeah.
Usually you can get those
Nuts.
fairly cheap from some of these foundations. Think outside the box.
Yeah, I really like that idea.
Right.
So, what was that? All right, so before we move on to transportation, anything else related to natural resources that you feel missing, or that you want to, larger topics that you want to make sure we address?
Well, we need our our planting list. I know people are working on, get that finalized, that'd be very nice. Well, so. Okay, I know on transportation, I saw a different sort of bus on the road that I hadn't seen before. It was a small, it was like a really big size van, but smaller than, say, Thrive 55's buses.
Yeah,
And it had a sign on the side of it. It said, go to our app or whatever, and it sounded like you could call a ride. I don't think we consider that
It's like a
sweet thing,
bus
but it's,
Uber.
yeah, but it's on the,
yeah, so that's something that I know RIPTA offers. I can't recall off the top of my head if Flex Zone, yeah, where basically, yeah, it's a small Uber, but run by the public transit authority.
here.
Yeah, it's like sector.
And so instead of having a fixed route in a certain area, they have this vehicle and they run based on the calls that they get, and they'll try to consider calls and rides if they're hearing people, and but yeah, if you're within that area, you call, they'll pick you up and take you anywhere within that area.
But it's available here.
Well, that's a good question. I don't know if that's yeah.
But I looked for it, Google it, and I couldn't find it yet. I'll call, I have to talk to him anyway.
Okay.
Pete ran something like that. He had some kind of like
Yeah, it's a safe
They
thing.
did
Yeah.
post-COVID,
Oh, did they
yeah,
discontinue it?
and I don't know if it's still going on.
I think down in Bissing, like, they have that kind of Uber service. They call them and come get
I
you.
have to find out more about that. All right.
So the transportation stuff, of course, you have seen before. We just wanted to show you where things are after your last conversation, in August. So policy 4.1, increase and connect all modes of transportation. A, increase the resiliency of Groton's transportation infrastructure to reduce vulnerability to flooding and climate-related impacts. B, conduct an inventory of flood-prone transportation infrastructure, including roads, bridges, and culverts, using local knowledge, past event data, and modeling tools to identify at-risk roadway infrastructure. And then C, integrate resilience considerations into all roadway and trail infrastructure improvement planning and development review processes, especially for infrastructure located within FEMA flood zones or coastal high hazard areas, and construct appropriate road and trail connections, consolidate access points as development occurs. See, there's somewhat of the overlap for natural resources. We were talking about the ways to coast access. Transportation is really where we have this conversation around trails. And I think I can take a lot of the feedback from you related to trails generally and apply that here. And then two more. Develop an access management plan for key corridors, such as routes 1 and 12, developing recommendations such as consolidating driveways, limiting curb cuts, and controlling left turn access to reduce conflict points and improve safety. And then finally, F, we continue to advocate for the shoreline east extension to Groton and work with state and regional stakeholders to build on the Eastern Connecticut corridor rail and transit feasibility study. So anything there that you wanted to readdress?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of this has already been done, like 401B.
So question for staff, do we have a strong sense of specifically the transportation infrastructure that's?
I don't know. I don't know if Public Works, we have not done that as a department, but I don't know whether or not Public Works has done a holistic look at flood prone roadways.
And if that's the case, I'm not even sure it's like thorough throughout the town.
Yeah.
Maybe kind of piecemeal.
The state have their own.
Possibly.
Maybe we can find out this needs are, that would be great. Thanks. Yeah.
I mean, whatever it is, it's gonna be you would overlay it with the flood map, right?
Right.
Then identify that.
Yes, but it also may be flooding from, as a result of inefficient pipes or undersized pipes.
Oh,
So
okay.
maybe not just in the flood zone.
Right. That's why we specifically say that, you should include local knowledge, because people know where things flood.
Yeah, no, now that you say that, I know places that flood that you wouldn't think would flood,
Sure.
just because the
It was built 70
drains
years
doesn't
ago.
work
And
anymore.
yeah, exactly.
Can you explain a little bit about what you're seeing the difference between 4.1A and 4.1B is?
In many respects, being honest, I think that B is sort of a specific subset of A.
Right.
Honestly, the way I'm reading it,
What more could A do that B doesn't address?
right.
Could we get?
I
rid of
could
A?
see combining those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point.
So, I guess for 4.1E. Keep seeing this more and more, traveling around the state, everything and other places, other states, or pinch points like we have from the schools letting out Route 1 or in the middle school or the high school. See a lot of towns going to roundabouts,
Mhm.
and I know, people thought about that for some places. It can be expensive, but I think that would really be considered. I mean, that's a nightmare now.
Big
That whole
proponent of
place.
roundabouts.
Yep.
So there's some roundabouts being proposed, by DOT over on
Right.
Allen Street. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're studying it right now.
184 and 117.
I just thought for that school thing too, that would be, people have really gotten into them. At first, it was dangerous almost to use them because people didn't know who was supposed to stop, things like that. But
And once you do, they're wonderful.
Allen seems to work well.
Yes,
that's all.
it was fantastic when they.
Super expensive
Yeah, I know, I can't
to
believe.
build for
it was
whatever
$5
reason.
billion
I don't-
or something.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot, but I don't know the numbers. Hal mentioned it once, the fatalities and the
Mhm.
accidents.
Yeah, the statistics are amazing.
Made and
And there was someone, it was fascinating. Someone did a study with pizza delivery drivers and like tracked their times and their emissions before and after. Because their businesses are tracking all this anyway, and the mileage and the emissions, like just and the time, like everything across the board, the statistics were so
Yeah.
positive.
yeah, I think you see a lot of, I mean, it's expensive. I think it's a good investment. Because so many things.
Yeah, we did specifically.
And maybe it's something that, and once I think that you develop them,
People use
like
them.
people get used to them and then they
Yeah.
know how to drive through them and it isn't, as long as we don't do them like they do them in Ireland. They go the wrong, the other way.
They're traffic carded.
They absolutely are.
So,
Yeah.
You have to, I think it makes you think
Mhm.
you're driving through them and
Makes you look.
yeah,
Right, and
Yeah.
anytime that you're forced to think, you're being safer.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan
Like,
personally.
I think maybe I'm just biased because of where I live, but that intersection, by the Groton Bible Chapel and the Chipotle right there, it gets really clogged and really hard, especially when people want to make left-hand turns, and it's almost impossible to have any kind of pedestrian or cycle.
Oh, sure.
Because of it.
Yeah.
So I imagine a roundabout there would help calm some of the traffic and make it a little bit more pedestrian and cycle friendly. People can
think
slow
so.
down and look and a little bit more protected.
Yep.
Or even the Route 12 over to the sub base. We were talking about
Down
the
there, yeah.
problems if they put apartments in, that would solve a lot of those problems.
fortunately, everything that's been mentioned are state roads.
Well, yes. Advocating for this to happen, state roads, is that something that the town can do?
But yeah, there's like 3 of them you could use for the high school and middle school.
Called our
Oh,
record
sure.
study.
No state, just advocate. You can be an advocate now. Make the state do it in their step.
We have big plans for the state.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I mean, there are a lot of comprehensive plans, POCDs, master plans that a good number of the strategies are advocating to the state for certain things. The next transportation policy, ease traffic congestion and expand multimodal transportation and parking options in the Mystic area to support tourism, economic development, and quality of life. So just a reminder, we did have some Mystic specific items, including this. So A, work with Stonington on creative solutions to facilitate the movement of tourists and residents between destinations on both sides of the Mystic River and to reduce vehicle congestion. This could include a bike share program, trolley service, water taxi, or coordinated signage systems, for example. And the second strategy, to fund multimodal improvements, establish a parking and transportation fund as recommended in the Mystic Parking Study, to reinvest revenues from parking meters, permits, fines, and in lieu fees into the ongoing maintenance of parking infrastructure and the development of multimodal improvements. So as a reminder, this was one where we heard from a lot of people like, we already have this Mystic Parking Study. Can we please implement it?
And then after that, audit the results and what else can we do? I think it's something we'll have to keep working on,
Yeah.
even if it ever does get implemented.
Floating parking garage.
Loading parking garage. Oh my gosh.
Imagine the outreach.
Is there any, movement of the property that burned over on the Stonington side?
I haven't seen anything. You all will get, you'll get referral from Stonington.
Yeah.
Anything comes up.
Probably won't be a parking.
What?
Probably not even a parking garage.
Well, you know.
Possibly.
not.
So chapter 4.
Yep. So moving on to community facilities, policies, community facilities, policies, and strategies. I do. So this is a brief one. This would really, you know, I think initially there was like something for literally every facility, the library, the schools, and so on and so forth. And town staff really felt like, no, we don't need to get to that level of detail. Like this chapter would be 20 pages long. So tried to boil it down to the basics. So one policy 4.3, foster sustainable, resilient, and adaptable infrastructure that ensures uninterrupted access to essential services. 3A, increase the resilience of wastewater and stormwater collection and treatment systems. And 3B, invest in energy efficiency and renewable energy for town buildings, facilities, and vehicles. So those are sort of things that we can focus on related to facility.
Remember all the back and forth we had with the school buildings getting the solar panels.
Yeah.
It'd be nice if there was some way to add that in the basic design of certainly town buildings. Or ones that aren't retrofitting.
Mhm.
Could you,
In, oh,
go ahead.
in the narrative, there was reference to electricity and natural gas. Groton's electricity primarily comes from Groton Utilities and Eversource. Eversource also supplies natural gas. One challenge is Groton Utilities is that the commercial customer base has not rebounded since post-COVID.
That was from an interview we had with their staff. I don't know why that would be, but that was what they reported.
They stopped needing energy. I mean,
Or possibly it's a result from people working from home as opposed to coming back to the office. Yeah.
Yeah.
So customer base isn't about,
Yeah.
you mean like commercial buildings closed and they lost a customer that way, or?
Or just they're not using as much electricity and water because they don't have people in the building.
Well, there's also, I think, a couple of different fuel cells that have been built.
Yeah, that-
Um,
That too, yep.
That, I think those were some big energy users.
I know the base, all the housing, they're all solar powered now, and there's been multiple fields put up around the base. So
Base has done a lot on fuel cells and energy efficiency and resiliency as well. So I know, you know, the base and Pfizer have done a lot of work. It wouldn't surprise me if EB's been looking into it as well.
So they were, you know, in the interview, they were tracking usage since COVID, but I don't know that it's causal that, you know, the you know, the effects of COVID is what led to this sustained decrease.
They actually had a great program. They came to my house, our house, and totally sealed all the windows, doors.
Oh, yeah.
All that stuff.
Yep.
And
Yeah, their efficiency program is great.
I mean, no, it's really tremendous. Which is good. So yes, they do lose.
Yeah, the more successful they are in that, they're selling less energy.
It's like then the more selling hybrid hot water heaters.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, that's almost like saying, you know, due to efficiencies, you know, we don't use as much. Is that a challenge?
Is that a problem?
Yeah, maybe we
Utilities.
yeah, they have to figure out how they.
Is
that a problem we have to solve?
That's not a problem you have to solve. Yeah.
And
That was like.
recommendation to that effect, so.
I don't think that, and given that Groton Utilities is community owned, I mean, that's a good thing. The community benefits too, right? In a lot of ways.
It just struck me as like,
Yeah,
why is that our problem?
well,
I don't think it is.
there are a lot of people with Eversource who would go to a lot of utilities in ours. If there's some way they could get more customers across the line.
There's a lot of words in that first. Is that what it means? Is making buildings that then are more self-sufficient?
Yeah, for strategy 3B.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that and in even 4.3.
Oh,
Is
just
that-
generally speaking, yeah. Yeah, foster sustainable, resilient, adaptive infrastructure that ensures uninterrupted access to essential services.
And those essential services are power, electricity, gas.
Yeah,
Mhm.
water,
Sewer.
all your utilities,
Yeah,
sewer,
okay.
internet connection,
Yeah, okay.
broadband.
So I give
I guess it doesn't matter how you do it, just
two.
do it, right?
We
Right,
don't-
unless you want to be more specific.
We don't go out and say it, but I think, all of our new communities with underground utilities, I think are great. And I love them. And I go to other communities and I see wires and I hear, a storm came by and it's gonna be, a week before we get power back. I mean, we don't say it outright, but is there a plan or we need a plan to tackle?
Underground more areas, existing areas.
Like, not necessarily just new ones, but, some of the
Retrofitting.
critical areas that would bring down half the town.
It's expensive again.
I know.
It's incredibly expensive, yeah.
Yeah, no, I know when we
That's what the old number used to be. It's probably more than that now, yeah.
Main Street redevelopment plan many, many years ago,
But I'm
it's
so happy,
blow away number.
downtown Mystic, like, and then they stopped right at Sift, I'm like.
I'd have to go back and look. Does your hazard mitigate, if you're, if the hazard mitigation plan has a,
I don't know if it addresses that.
if there's a plan for utility resiliency, like in the case of
Ground utilities.
policy for undergrounding utilities, a policy for hardening utility poles so that they're more resilient during storms, moving more towards a microgrid system so that when one thing goes out, it doesn't cause ripple effects elsewhere.
And you're asking if it's in our hazard mitigation plan?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Okay, I didn't think so either.
Log anyway, so it was more, but I don't, I'm almost positive it was not in there.
'Cause that's really what we're talking about here, and we can be more explicit about that.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. Those are good ideas.
With 4.3.A.
Mhm.
So in the narrative, it talks about like new pavers. Is that all we're trying to do here? Are we trying to do more investments into the stormwater and wastewater treatment facilities? Because I like that we have the word invest in 4.3B because it directs policymakers to, hey, it's okay to spend money here.
Right.
But what are we really talking about in 4.3A aside from pavers? I know the city of Groton is doing something with adding those catchment basins under like planters and stuff like that. Is that more what we're talking about? Is adding some of that infrastructure into existing spaces? Like, what are we talking about here? What are you trying to do?
That's a good question. And I'm unfortunately the wrong person to ask that specific question
But
to.
in
I'll look this, I can go back to.
It reads more like a policy. Is my
Yeah,
point.
I completely understand. Yeah. If we need to be more specific, we had some more specific things under here.
I think a lot of this is like, so, Public Works has planned to basically, flood proof their pump stations and whatnot. So I think it's stuff like that.
What's their barrier to doing? Is it money?
It's money.
Okay, so can we put invest there too?
Sure.
I know it's stuff like money.
That's a good specific one.
Which you don't find until
You need
something
it.
breaks, right?
You absolutely need it, yeah.
Be on the budget. Capital budget.
And if there's anything, I don't know if there's anything, you either flood proof it, you harden it, or you retreat. I don't know if there are instances where anything has been identified as being so flood prone that you want to start long-term planning for building elsewhere.
Does Public Works have they identified these places? If we know where they,
Oh, yeah.
if someone gave them $10 million, they would know where to go first.
I think they prioritized that whole
They
thing.
did, yeah,
So
yeah,
they
they
have,
evaluated
they had a study that was done and it prioritized a lot of their pump
So,
stations.
all right, so then we, yeah.
Yeah, as money comes along, so there's two projects right now. That is part of that, they're upgrading. But there's a lot of others in their costs.
You can almost check that box off.
The ongoing. Get to the-
Gotta give yourself some low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Yay. Done. Right, so anything else? I mean, again, I know we scaled this one way back. So is there anything you feel strongly we should be addressing here that we are not?
I
We
mean,
still have time to add things, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah.
the only thing I could think of is like encouraging individual property owners to do some of this stuff and
Mhm.
thinking, I mean, I don't know anything specific right now, but how can we encourage and support individual property owners taking on some of the energy efficiency things?
Sure.
I know Groton Utilities has a couple rebate programs that, you know, encourage some of that. I don't know what we have town-wide that perhaps could supplement that.
I think GU communicates well.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know that how other utilities do. But
Are theirs based on the federal programs though? Because I know that with the
It's
chiefs,
both.
it's both, yeah,
Because Eversource,
they have some.
I got my air conditioning upgraded.
Mm.
So Eversource gives you a thing and then you can go to the feds. I think the Fed thing, one of it.
This is the last year for it, yeah,
But yeah, it is
right.
sometimes both. You file locally and then you file, you know, rebate. with the- Your turn, tax return.
Mhm.
And oftentimes it's not necessarily the municipality that's offering those things, but the municipality can serve as a clearinghouse of information and really encourage more people
Encourage.
to take advantage of these resources.
Yeah, do we have like an energy efficient place to go for home efficiency?
Yeah, like a landing page on the website or something that can direct to resources if we don't offer them directly. Yeah.
Oh, right.
I know there's LIHEAP, right?
Yeah.
That's heating assistance program,
Yeah.
but when I think in that vein, I think that a lot of those folks are still on very
Sure.
oil.
Yeah.
I mean, my house came with steam radiators. So what can you, I don't know.
And some of this we will be addressing in Climate Ready Groton or Climate Action Plan, getting into greenhouse gas inventories and solutions of what the town wants to do for going more electric or heat pump and looking at some of those items as well. There'll be some much deeper dives in that plan.
House, you should go to your utility first. It's amazing the programs they have, some utilities used to have.
Yeah, I know Groton Utilities does an energy audit for you or rebates you if you
do.
get one done.
Excellent one.
Yeah, and yeah, once you get that audit done, then you get rebates on the upgrades. So yeah, I think, you know, the role of the town is more to promote
Promote,
those
yeah.
resources. Yeah,
Encourage.
yeah, we can add a strategy into that.
Yeah, and supposedly geothermal costs are really coming down. I think that would be really good news.
That would be great news.
I mean, I think we know somebody went with it, but a lot more for sure.
Mhm.
If it comes down like they're talking about.
Is there, for 4.3b, is there verbiage that would make it clearer that that's what we expect the town to be doing?
Mhm.
Rather than just, I mean, it sounds very general when you say invest in energy efficiency and renewable energy. But I don't know if you could just make it, if it could be made to sound more like, this is the expectation.
Talk more about that. What would be?
Well, I know at the town hall when they were, I don't know actually whatever happened, but they were gonna replace the gas boiler.
Mhm.
And it wasn't even considered to go with anything other than just gas again, and then, it was,
What, natural gas?
yeah.
What's the matter with natural gas?
Well, there's nothing wrong with it, but then they put in, it was suggested that heat pumps be used, and
then-
so. I don't know is that what ended up
I
happening?
think that Groton Utilities, they give rebates for.
Yeah.
for
So I
the-
mean, if it's something like, that, if it can be made just a little toothier, a little more teeth to it, that it would be the expectation.
So-
Sure. I mean, I know that we've had conversations as a group about not wanting to put town council in a corner and force them to do things that they don't want to do, right? I think is where.
Be more energy efficient, and I mean, that seems like that's a corner that they should be in.
I don't disagree at all. I was saying that's why you've seen some of this language moving away from directing town council what to do. But yes, I mean, you could, there are certainly communities that will, I've seen, we've put in language that, you know, like, don't make cost, the primary decision maker for what, you know, you're investing in energy efficiency, or like, you know, because there are some communities like, well, the standard vehicle is always going to be less expensive than the energy efficient vehicles, and so then we're never going to actually invest in it. So some communities will say, you know, you have to take these environmental considerations into account, and not just based on the lowest cost option that's out there. So that's one way communities have dealt with that.
And sometimes your upfront costs are different than your long-term costs, right? Operate.
Of course, right.
30-year life or something like that.
Right.
50 years, some of
And-
these things.
You know, if you wanted to develop a metric and say, hey, we want X% of the town's buildings, facilities, and vehicles to be energy efficient, or you know, running on renewable energy by a certain date. You know, I think anything that we would come up with in this room right now might be arbitrary.
Yeah, no, I don't
Right.
know if I meant, I
Okay,
mean, that like hard numbers, but just that that's the expectation. Is that maybe what you said before is where I would suggest is that these things be considered. And that they're, you know, that it isn't relied just on, you know, expediency or cost, that it is, you know, that there are other considerations that are hard to put a number on.
Yep.
Maybe I'm just talking too much here.
We want to stay high, again, higher level POCD and that climate action plan. Maybe we can start getting into some of those more specifics and setting some goals.
The audits, I have no idea if the town's efficient or not. The buildings is probably a mix of different things. It'd be nice to know where we are. Are there opportunities?
and that's,
But
that's something if you
maybe-
have not done, that this, another very common thing that we'll see in a POCD is to do an audit, an energy audit on all town facilities. You get a baseline of how much energy you're using currently. Yeah, I mean, again, even if you did it a long time ago, it would be worth.
Yeah, I think we did one back in like 2010 before my time,
Okay.
Yeah,
but
clearly out of date.
Wow.
But yeah.
That's a good idea. Add an energy audit for the town. This could be the most energy efficient building in town. Sorry.
Except some rooms, maybe some.
You want a fluorescent light on it. Just thinking outside the box a little bit, I mean, would we go as far as to say, encourage bringing in natural gas into areas that don't have it?
That's, I think that's a difficult thing to propose.
Well, I mean,
I think Eversource has been doing that.
well,
No, there's a number of streets that they did it in Judson Avenue and.
To kind of go up against the zoning changes we were talking about with like expanding infrastructure for gas and.
It's not always the best alternative,
Yeah.
and it's really expensive sometimes.
There are some communities outside of Connecticut maybe that are actually banning the
Yeah,
expansion.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not exactly a green.
Universally loved.
what do you mean? Compared to what? Oil?
Electricity.
What?
Depends on.
Compared to oil, it's much better.
I spent a lot of
That's
money
what-
several years ago on
Oh,
fiber
oh,
optics,
that's bigger.
going back to telecommunications.
Yep.
And I haven't heard
But
anything
efficient
since, and I know that that's not something that's like perfectly good
distribution.
forever,
I mean,
so I'm not
Pollution
sure.
wise, it's still way better.
Mentioning or looking
Yeah.
into is where our fiber optic infrastructure is
I
at.
wish I
I
had.
think that was brought in kind of to support bigger businesses.
Yep,
and
no.
We-
That speeds that kind of stuff, so I haven't heard much of it since we spent all that money to
You don't
lay
like
it
having
around here.
gas?
Looks like, well,
no, there are-
question for staff, we're talking about fiber optics, and apparently there was some big investments a few years ago to bring that in and make that more attractive for businesses.
Like 5 years ago,
Much
less,
about that.
remember that? No, I remember, 'cause I remember them laying it all over here.
Maybe they've
the
changed
intersection.
since then. Maybe there's something better,
That's my point is, our narrative's completely silent on fiber optics.
or what
But I
kind of,
know-
what kind of internet or cell service do we have in town? It's an opportunity too.
That'd be a good question for either IT or Public Works, because I know that there was some stuff they were doing connecting some of the buildings with fiber optics. But then there's also areas getting Wi-Fi, but in order to get that initial Wi-Fi, you probably need the fiber optic cable. But yeah,
The interesting thing to know is where you can get Wi-Fi or 5 bars in Greece. Because I know when we took trips to India, you could get, 5 bars everywhere, just about. It was incredible. And yet in Groton, I know it's not the case.
Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
And just, I mean, just given the way this town's kind of, it gets pretty remote fast. If you go north, or then you're on the coastal, and you tend to really lose your reception.
Did we ever get the
But is there a study?
communication on it that was gonna go down next to the waterfront?
There's a building permit for it. I don't think it's started yet.
Not started
Okay.
yet. But it'd be interesting to know if there's dead zones, and it could be the same thing, where we have probably more trees.
Yeah, yeah.
And it could be a similar sort of thing. Because if you don't have that kind of access nowadays, that really puts you behind it. A lot of ways, It could be more a socially economic type problem.
yeah, and I think it is a little bit of a moving target because when we all just had normal cell phones without data plans, you didn't need a lot of data, but now that we all have smartphones with internet and all this other stuff, this probably draws a lot more data need. And then the bandwidth of how far that reaches gets smaller with more people with these.
Yeah, just have no idea what the footprint of this town looks like.
Yeah.
Be interesting to know.
For the coverage?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, when the tower was being proposed down there, they had the coverage maps.
For the
Yeah.
town.
But, well, it was,
I know.
they perceived it as a whole.
Right.
And they were, unfortunately wanted to put it right smack on the waterfront.
Right.
Which is, in my mind, the dumbest place to put it because half the coverage is over the water.
Well, Fisher's Island was gonna get
Well,
it.
I don't think it would go to, actually, I don't think it was, but anyway. Having it co-located, I mean, that was like, wow. The best idea ever, and I don't know why it didn't start off there.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
Anyway, that'd be something, if we do have coverage maps,
Yeah, we'll look into
If
that.
there's
There
op-
must be coverage maps.
must be, there's one, there must be a few. What other problems can we solve?
Well, that's important for anybody who's gonna come in and put a business in or something.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's an economic development issue. It's,
Kids.
community
too.
facilities issue. Yeah. It's education,
Yeah.
all sorts of impacts.
You disconnecting from everybody socially,
Right. Never been able to talk to your kids again.
Yeah. Lack of social interactions and social skills, you name it.
Go over some next steps. So coming up, we've got another open house on November 19th. So leading up to that, we'll be doing another press release, e-blast, display boards around town, postcards, etc. To really push people to all the draft chapters on Greater Groton, encourage people to provide comments and to attend the open house on the 19th. In terms of what we're doing with the PCC in the coming months. So our next special meeting in November, focus on chapter 6. That's the last chapter that we've not discussed yet. So that's communication, community engagement, implementation, and future land use. And I do expect to spend a good chunk of the November meeting diving into future land use. As we talked about, that's sort of the last piece where we think about, all right, after everything we've discussed, how do you see us changing land in the future? And is there anything that we need to change on the zoning map to meet your goals? I think personally, this is going to be a much lighter lift than it was in 2016. I think you made so many changes since 2016 in response. There are going to be fewer. needs for pointing out differences on a future land use map. That's just my guess, but that's up to you. So we really want to have some robust conversations around that in November. Did want to talk tonight about putting something on the calendar for December. We don't currently have a special meeting on the calendar. We were looking at maybe December 17th or 18th. And the primary purpose of this, one, we could continue talking about future land use, depending on how far along we get in November. Also, we wanted to give you an opportunity to think about all the public feedback that you've received, the written comments leading up to these meetings. We will hopefully have gotten a number of comments at the November 19th open house and any virtual feedback as well. So really wanted to give you an opportunity to think through, are there any changes you want to make based on additional, again, everything that we've done so far has been built on what we've heard so far from the public, but now that people are getting a chance to respond to the specifics, are there ways that you would like to change the drafts in response?
Yeah, we've gotten a number of, as you all know, we send them on to you, but a number of multiple pages of comments, and really, we've just sort of noted we've got them without really looking at them. Yeah.
No, it's important because
Yeah.
I change my mind.
Yeah.
Of course, like,
Of course.
and so many people have such, really thoughtful comments.
You know, when you're taking these comments, keep in mind, we've been getting comments for months now at open houses, focus group meetings. There's been a lot of things that we've gotten a lot of feedback from a broad range of people. But we want to make sure we're checking with you because we've been trying to write this document, working with Horsley Witten based upon the feedback that we've gotten from the community, the feedback we've gotten from you. But, as Jeff said, we're going to have the November and then January open houses. Sometime later on, we'll have public hearings. Hopefully, there's not a lot of changes after the public hearings and we can address things. But if there are items that you want us change based upon the feedback, I mean, at the end of the day, you're the group that adopts the plan. So you have to kind of weigh, all right, we heard from, this group, we heard from this group, we've heard from these people, we've heard, very different, varying types of comments. Some people saying yes, some people saying no. And then weighing that out with everything that you've been doing for the past many years and what you've heard and where you see Groton going over the next 10 years. So just, that's where the fun begins.
Incentive really to read after tomorrow and the other draft comes in, I think, take a look at what we have so far. The chapters, 1 to 6, and see if there's any major problems or.
Yeah.
You want a date now?
So, there are only 3 of you here right now. So I imagine staff will poll you.
Guys, but yeah,
Those are the 2 dates we're looking at.
it's reserved on both those dates, so, yeah.
Yeah. Lean towards earlier in December. Are we done? Okay. Almost.
It is.
So January, we have our last of these special meetings and, if we talk about the implementation matrix, we can talk about any loose ends. It's just sort of there as a catch-all before we take things to public hearing. So again, very quickly, November 19th, we will be reviewing all the chapters with the public, really focusing on the policies and strategies. What we're hoping is much like the open house in May, is that you can help us staff this. If everyone can pick a chapter that you're most interested in, and one of my staff should be at each of the stations. A town staff member should be at each station, so you would not be alone. Just be a team to help discuss things with the public. And then in January, we'll come back with the full draft for review. And then, we don't necessarily have to get into this now, but we do need to think about how you want to handle the public hearing process, when you would want to open the public hearing. You have until June to adopt something, but we're not gonna wait for that. We're ahead of schedule and we want to keep it that way.
Yes, sounds good. Thank you for so ahead of schedule.
Hey.
That,
Thank you for all your hard work and coming to these extra meetings to get it done.
no problem.
Yeah, this has been from the last one going very smoothly, I think.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it.
Not to, but it was difficult, the last one. a lot of
Yep.
roadblocks that occurred. So,
Well,
That's what happened this evening. Thank you.
and just one last thing too, I just want to thank Bryce and everybody involved in that nice walk.
Yes.
Downtown, they said tremendous. And I think it's so good for this commission in particular to be walking in each one of the important areas, villages, communities of Groton. Because it's
There's gonna
amazing,
be another one.
it's amazing how you bypass these things, right? So,
put in a lot of work.
wonderful.
It's great. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to the next one.
Me too.
Is it more?
For Thanksgiving, no specific date, just.
That's good. Okay, great. So I hear a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, second. I guess I'm the only one who
This
can.
is. Well, thank you.
Can you second your own?
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Oh,
I'm not gonna put that move that.
Show you, but I
No.
want to put it in my. He's in the New York Times. He's talking. About the same whole, missing.
and meeting right here.
Yeah.
There.
Right.